So let me get back to the UAE girls, because there is this lamentation that goes on that don't date any Cameroonian guy. You're Cameroonian, and is on TikTok. The Cameroonian girls on TikTok, they are saying that don't date Cameroonian boys because they would use you, dump you, and go back to Cameroon to get married. How valid is that statement?
If you'd ask me, it's a very, based on the fact that I've not really experienced that, but I've heard a lot of this happening, and I would say that everything depends on how it started. Yeah, everything depends on how it started, because we do understand that here in the UAE, there's a lot of cohabitation here in the UAE. Depending. So when my friend picked me up, we left for Abu Dhabi. We arrived Abu Dhabi that evening, and he told me to give his friend 25 dirhams.
Okay.
So I gave him. He showed me the accommodation. We were there. My wife started work. I was home still job hunting. There were some guys in that accommodation as well. They were looking for jobs. So we woke up every morning and we had to go around looking for a job and dropping our CVs and all of that. So there was this day we went out for job hunts. Just dropping our CVs, and then we couldn't find our way back. So I had this conversation with the guy. I said, okay, we should just follow the same path imaginarily, just follow the same path we were coming on the bus and see if we can find ourselves back at Lifeline. So we tried, took cuts, asked from people. They gave us descriptions. We got home that day at about 5 p.m. in the evening.
Okay. Can you remember where you stayed in Abu Dhabi?
I stayed around Hamdan Street.
Okay.
Lifeline, yeah. Okay. So on another day I left and I went right to Musafa.
Okay.
I did the same. I went to companies, warehouses, trying to drop my CVs and all of that. There was a day I went for an interview. It was a walk-in interview. I went there. The queue was like, we had to attend that interview on the 12th floor. And we were downstairs. The queue was from down to the 12th floor.
Yeah.
So we had to go up. And when I got into the room, I dropped my CV and they told me, we're going to look into it and call you back. And then I left. I continued in the same routine every now and then for like a week, then I gave up. There was a day I was walking on the streets. I met this guy. He told me they need somebody to go share flyers and all of that. It's going to be 100 dirhams pay every day.
Okay.
I accepted. I took the flyers, went to the school, and I was sharing it to parents. I did that for 2-3 days, and he paid me as he said.
He promised. Yeah.
So that was it. Then my wife met a friend where she was working, and she just told him, like, my husband has been applying on Dubizel for long, and he's not getting calls.
Okay.
So this guy told my wife, I know the mistake he's making. That guy came back, showed me everything, and told me the mistake.
Okay.
So the thing was, on my cover letter, I didn't used to put my phone number.
Okay.
So he told me on Dubizel, even though you register with your phone number, but when an employer is viewing your page, he doesn't have access to that number.
Yeah.
So I started including that, and then I started receiving a lot of calls.
Okay.
At that point, it dawned on me that the same energy I'm using to look for a job that is outside my field of study, I can use the same energy to look for a job in my field of study.
Yes.
So I embarked on that.
Perfect.
And I was doing the same every day. Every day I was doing the same. And by the grace of God, I had a job not here in the UAE. It was 7 days to my visa expiration, and I had to do a visa change. So 7 days before, I got a call from this lady. That's my very first manager. And she asked me if I have a degree, actually. And I told her, yeah, I have a degree. She said, can I just snap and send to her at this particular moment? I said yes. I understood why she said at this particular moment, because giving me time a lot of things might happen. So I sent the degree to her. Then she called again and asked me if I'm ready to work in a remote area.
Okay.
And I told her, with the situation in which I am in, I'm willing to work anywhere. Then she told me it's in Yemen.
Okay.
So when I checked Yemen on my phone, I saw that Yemen was going through a crisis as well. Then I asked myself, I left Cameroon because of a crisis. I'm accepting a job where there is a crisis. Then I asked this manager, I understand there's a crisis in Yemen. Then she told me, no, where we're going to, the crisis is not in that part of Yemen. So I had a job in Socotra.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful island.
Okay.
I'd recommend any of you to visit anytime. It's a beautiful island.
Okay.
So it was towards the National Day. She did everything possible. She told me, okay, Terence, if you want to go with me, we're still preparing the center. It's a new English center. We're preparing it. If you'd like to come with me, that's fine. But being afraid, not being sure, I told her, no, let me go on the day that we discussed during the interview. Then she said, okay, that's fine. And one thing that really inspired me at that time was the fact that, irrespective of the fact that I was being scared of the future and I was being scared of the unknown, let me put it that way, my wife was very confident and she was very positive.
Yeah.
When I explained everything to her, I explained my fears to her, she told me she's not scared of anything. She knows that this is genuine. And honestly, when I met my colleagues in Socotra, they told me they felt the same way I felt. So it wasn't really like a bad thing that I felt that way. Yeah,
Okay.
because every other person did the same. It was just so sudden.
Okay.
So I went to Socotra. I was in Socotra for about a year. I left for my first vacation. On coming back, I lost my job.
Okay. So let me ask, you got the job, and the job position, you were to report duty in an island in Yemen.
Yeah.
So how long did it take to process your visa? Did you go there with Yemeni work visa, or you went there with United Arab Emirates work visa? I need to understand.
Okay. This training center was owned by one of the sheikhs.
Okay.
So we had to fly through the Royal Jet
Okay.
terminal in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
So it was a visa on arrival.
Okay.
And everything was prepared from their side.
Okay.
It didn't take any days. Like, you just had to go to the airport and exit.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
They didn't do any work visas. Most of the people working on the island didn't have any visas in Yemen. They were being issued visas on arrival.
Okay.
Yeah.
It means the salary was good.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. So, because I thought maybe you entered the normal planes that would take you to Oman, then you
No,
have
no,
to.
no.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so at that point, I got to Yemen. I worked there for a year, and then I came back. Then later that year, COVID-19 struck.
Okay.
Fortunately for me, when I came back, the center was a little bit shaky, so they had to do some reconstructions and all of that. So we were here in Dubai, we were here in the UAE, and then I left back for home.
Okay.
Then shortly after that,
Okay.
the crisis, the COVID-19 hit.
Yeah.
So I was home. I was in Cameroon for a year. Then I
Okay.
came back.
All right.
Yeah. So after 1 year, when COVID had calmed down a little, I came back to the UAE. At that point, I came back without my wife didn't come back with me.
Okay.
So I was here alone, and I had a very good friend of mine
Okay.
who was like a brother.
All right.
He was working here, so he took me into his place. I had to live with him. He had an accommodation.
Okay.
So it was an apartment. So at that time, I was far from the
bed space
Yeah, the
and
bed
everything.
space and all
I
that.
wanted to ask, when you went to Yemen for work, did your wife go with you?
She didn't go with me at that time, but 3 months later she joined me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then both of you went back to Cameroon for vacation.
Yeah, together.
And could not come back because
We
of,
both came back, and then shortly after that, COVID-19 struck, and we
had to.
fortunately we were home before COVID started.
Okay.
Yeah, at that time there were just rumors and all of that, so
Okay.
we went back home.
Okay.
And then COVID started, and we didn't come back earlier as planned.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
At that point too, it dawned on me that, okay, fine, you've done one thing in your field of study,
Yeah.
and now I was that person that used to think out of the box.
Okay.
So I'm gifted in the installation of security cameras, access control system as well.
Okay.
That's the business I did back home.
Okay.
So I decided to look for a job in that field as well. I had a lot of offers in that regard, but I turned them down at some point because they kept on saying like, okay, we're going to try you for 1 month.
Okay.
And I do understand what trial is here in the UAE and all that. So each time they said that, I turned it down. Then I went to this company that hired me as an inventory specialist.
Okay.
Yeah, so I worked there for a couple of months for about I worked there for about 6 to 7 months, and then I wasn't feeling well. I had a back pain. Then I had to go back home again.
Okay.
Yeah. At this point, I would like to.
Sorry, brother. Let me cut you short. You said you were not feeling fine. You had a back pain. You had to go back. Is it that the company who gave you a visa as an inventory specialist did not provide you with health insurance, or what?
They did provide me with health insurance, but I discovered that for most of the hospitals I went to, I still had to pay a lot, which means that the insurance coverage wasn't it wasn't the best. Yeah.
Okay.
So from time to time, and I do have this. One of my uncles had told me this when I embarked on my journey to the UAE. My uncle told me, Terence, every time you're faced with a challenge, fall back home.
Okay.
Re-strategize and take on a journey again.
Okay.
So I always had that on my mind.
Okay.
So when I took ill, I had to go. My family just kept on telling me, just come home, just come home. So I went back home. I left my wife here.
Okay.
And she just had a new job at that time. I left her here and went back home. I was home for 5 months.
Okay.
When I recovered, then I came back to the UAE.
Okay.
Then I started my job hunt again.
Okay.
For 8 months.
All right. Okay.
Without a job.
Yeah.
So it was really, really challenging for me, but I had to keep going.
Yeah, let me ask a question. Why 8 months? With all the experiences you've had and you're very intelligent, why did it have to take up to 8 months for you to have a job?
I believe it took me 8 months to get a job because I was looking for a specific job.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I didn't apply to anything aside that.
Okay.
I was looking for a specific job.
Okay.
And that's why it took me that long.
Okay.
So I was very determined, and my wife too really encouraged me during that time. And even though she had to take care of everything for us, but she kept on telling me, so long as we keep trying, I'll keep doing my best as well.
Right. Okay.
At that point, I applied a lot. If you know what 8 months looks like.
I've been for 17 months, my dear, without a job here, so I understand you clearly.
Yeah. So every now and then, I didn't used to sleep at night. I spent my whole night on LinkedIn looking for email addresses, looking for jobs that have been posted. And then by 5 a.m. in the morning, I send out applications. I used to send about 60 emails every morning. Then I can go to sleep.
Okay.
So while I'm sleeping, I wake up, I check, and I sleep, I check. And so cumulatively, I can say I didn't used to sleep for up to 4 hours a day.
Okay.
In all of those 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah. I was seriously on the job hunt market because I had discarded the idea of going out to look for a job, dropping CVs and all of that. I knew a lot about the internet, and I decided to use that knowledge to look for a job. Yeah.
But that technique of looking for job, going around, dropping CVs is not the best. You waste your time, energy, and money for nothing.
For nothing.
Because sometimes when you give those CVs, as you turn your back, it's being trashed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can say that summarily, my being in the UAE, there's been a lot of back and forths. I've been up. I've had a lot of ups and lows.
Okay.
And for that time, I just choose to be very, I just choose to be very perseverant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I was really perseverant.
Okay, so how did you get the present job you're doing now? How did you get it? Is it after you've been jobless for 8 months, or how did you get your present job?
The present job I have now, it's after I was jobless for 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when did you get it? Is it this year or last year, or when?
I got my job in 2022.
Oh,
the present job I'm in now.
Oh, okay. Okay, so in total in the UAE, how many employments have you had?
In total, I've had 3 employments in the UAE.
Oh, okay.
In total, yeah.
That's for 5 years. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many visa changes have you done? Because you were back and forth, Cameroon, back to the UAE, Cameroon, back to the UAE. So like how many visa changes have you done, even when you had no job for 8 months?
For all of that 8 months, I did 2 visa changes here in the UAE. Yeah, just 2. But however, I did about 3 for my son.
Okay. Okay, you have a son.
Yeah, I have a son. So I did about 3 for my son, and then I did 2 for myself.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I had a job that fortunately processed for me before I started working.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so you've heard him, guys. He's been through some quite strenuous moments in the UAE, but he was so perseverant, so resilient, and he really wanted to make it. So he was very pushful and focused, and that's why he's here seated with us and doing amazingly well, because his family is here. He has his wife here as well as his baby.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's go to the next question, which is, you've been in the UAE for 5 years. Yeah. What will you have to say about the cost of living, aka the standards of living?
Okay, I always like to crack this joke every time I'm being asked this question. Once you do not exchange how much you're spending here in CFA before doing what you have to do, then you get to think like the cost of living, it's a little bit moderate, yeah. But once you start doing that exchange from dirhams to CFA, then you get to start thinking like the cost of living here, it's very high. Why do I say this? For example, in a bed space, we used to pay a bed space at the time for 650 dirhams. That was over 100,000 for a single bed. Yeah. So if you equate it to like, okay, how much was that room? And you compare it to how much a room in Cameroon is, they're two far-fetched figures.
Definitely.
Yes. So what I'd say is, to me, living standards in Dubai, it's quite high. Yeah, that's my judgment. Because if you see how even those who are very wealthy here, how they value a single dirhams, then you get to understand that every bit of anything you have here has a huge value. So based on the currency, I do feel like it's high but affordable. Yeah. Once you have a job and you're doing something and you're earning and you plan perfectly, then you get to think that, okay, it's affordable.
So what is expensive? Because is it the housing, or is the feeding, or is just the other normal things we try to buy, the clothes, toiletries? What is really expensive?
I think the housing is quite expensive. Yeah, housing is quite expensive. I think for feeding and all of that, we can manage with that. But for people who always want to eat the Cameroonian meals and all that, but I think if you have to go with what is available here in the UAE, I think you can afford it. It's quite moderate. But I do understand that accommodation in the UAE, it's quite expensive. These are the two things I look at: accommodation and transportation. They're quite expensive.
All right. Yeah, let me ask, do you have any friend who is in the UK or Canada? Have you really spoken to them? Like, they should try to tell you how the cost of living is for that area, because maybe you have not traveled to UK to understand what the cost of living is, or this is the amount of money I spend on accommodation, and you have to compare it with what you spend in the UAE.
The only thing I know my friends would always tell me is about the tax systems wherever they are in the world. They always tell me about that. I do have a very good friend in Sweden who has not really complained much about accommodation. I have a friend in Canada who always tells me about taxes and all of that as well. But I know for sure that there are places like in the USA where I have a lot of family members that side. I do understand that. I've heard them complain about accommodations a lot. All right, because I have a friend that just left here to the UK, and when she landed and they were trying to find a house and everything, and when she tried to settle in the UK, the first phrase she used was like, whoever said the UAE is expensive? It's joking.
It's joking. She said they're trying to get a studio apartment and they were asked to pay £1,300 for a small studio apartment. And she said, Tato, the studio apartment is not even up to your studio apartment. Then I asked her, £1,300. Where are you staying? Are you staying in the heart of London, or you are staying in where? Because I don't know. She said, no, I'm staying in. She called one place that since I started studying English history, I never hear her. So she called one county and she said 1,300. If you want to do the calculation, that's like 5,000 plus for a studio apartment. And then I am in Dubai. I'm paying between 1,800 to 2,200. That's the studio bracket. So you want to tell me now that UAE is expensive? It's not. It's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, but from what I was saying, from my own perspective, I was saying it from I've been to two countries, Cameroon and the UAE. So I was saying it from my own, because at the same time, when you look at how much they make in the UK or in Canada as well, then they can afford that, right? But there are people here in the UAE who, for example, there are people who probably make between 2,000 to 3,000, and you don't expect them probably to live in a studio here in the UAE. That will be just spending all of their salaries. I
understand you. And there are also some people that still earn low in those countries, and then some people who consider themselves like, oh, they earn high. When they want to cut, when they slash those taxes, trust me.
Yeah,
it goes back to what you are earning in UAE without tax. And you're inside the slashed amount. You still have to pay 1,000. So if you do your math well, last, all side is almost the same.
Yeah, so I think comparatively, it would have been like, how do I find the UAE to other countries in the world? Then I would have shared the same perspective with you.
Yes. Yeah. All right, because that same friend complained about even food. Like, she literally has to complain about everything. Like, that food in UAE, I'll go to fish market, they'll price me 1 kilo of fish for 9 dirham. I'll still want to give 5 dirham. It's not. I don't cook every again with so many things. So it's either fish or meat. We don't combine it like what people are doing in the UAE. And I was just like, that's life.
Yeah.
So everywhere for me, my own notion is everywhere has its own problems.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so don't be running, because sometimes you run from pillar to post, and you run from fry pan to fire. Yes. All right. So for me, the UAE, when it comes to food, it's relatively very cheap.
Yeah. That's what I know.
Relatively, the only thing that is above moderate, right, is the housing.
Yeah. That's what I.
Okay,
I feel the same way too.
Let's get to the next question. In your own opinion, what is success?
I think success is when you're able to excel in your career. That's per career-wise, and at the same time, success is when you feel comfortable with everything you do every day, and you're able to manage your standards of living, and you live comfortably.
Okay.
Yeah. Irrespective, life has its ups and downs at every one point in time, but I do understand that once you're able to handle every day, as it in terms of feeding, accommodation, career-wise, then you cannot think like you're failing.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right. So with the definition you've given me, right, would I be bold enough, or should I be bold enough to tell my viewers that Mr. Terence is a successful man?
I would say that I'm on my path to success.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not yet there.
Okay.
Yeah. So my expectations are still high, and I'm working very hard to get to where I expect to be.
Okay.
Then at that point, I can come back to you.
All right, no worries. Perfect. So this leads us to the next question. Would you say, since you're on the path of success, would you say this journey, this part of success would have been better, or you would have been miles ahead if you went to other nations like the UK or the US? If yes or no, explain why.
I'll not be in any better position to think like I would have been better in another country than being here in the UAE, because I am that one person that believes in the reality of life. And wheresoever I find myself, I really do my best to see what I can do and get out of what I do every day. So being here in the UAE, I feel like I am a better person here. And every other thing about any other nation would have been something that I am not sure of, because I've not been there.
Okay.
But if I have to go by the stories that I hear from people every day, and the level of exposure that I have alongside the level of the friends and families that I have in other countries, I can also say that I may be a better person in another country. But based on the reality in which I find myself, I feel like I'm not doing bad. And I really do think that being in the UAE, it's actually God's plan for me.
Okay.
And I'm very sure that my everyday life, He sustains me where I am, and He's taking me through that path.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My God. Nachicha Ibi. Okay. Nachicha Ibi. Honestly, I'm blown away by his response. I'm blown away. Okay, so this leads us to the next question. With the series of experiences you've had, would you say the UAE has shaped you and given you some opportunities? Let's start with the part of UAE shaping you. Were there things you were doing when you were staying in your home country that you cannot even dare to do now? Let's start from there.
I would say that the UAE has given me that exposure in terms of shaping me. The UAE has made me to understand that wherever you find yourself, and you're willing to, there's going to be a way for you to excel. Because when I got into inventory, I'd like to do this with an example. When I got into inventory, I'll tell you the truth, I knew nothing about inventory.
Okay.
Yeah. So from the responsibilities that the manager of this company told me on the day I went for the interview, and it seemed promising. I got back home and I had to research on what are the expectations from my side. So I did a lot of research. I tried to check on how to work on Tally. I did everything I had to do to make sure that I do not lose that opportunity.
Okay.
So either ways, I do not think like in Cameroon you can apply for a banking job with a law background. Except otherwise we look at it from the glasses in which we can look at it, but it's very rare that you come with. But here in the UAE, it's very possible. And that's because employers in the UAE, even though some people would say it's because they do not want to pay these professionals, but it gives you that opportunity to excel.
Yes.
And once you have such opportunities, I'll be very honest with everybody, do not flag it off because you feel like you're not qualified to do that. Once a company is willing to train you and make you understand what their expectations are, go for it. Be determined and bend to do that.
You are giving me some real vibes here, okay? You're giving me some real vibes, my brother. Okay, so you're saying it shaped you in a way. What were the opportunities the UAE gave you?
The UAE has given me a lot of opportunities. Like right now, I do have lots of business ideas on my mind.
Okay, so 5 years in the UAE. Let's see if the UAE has gone through you. Can you just give me 3 words in Arabic? Number 1.
Shukran.
Okay, what does that mean in English language?
Thank you.
Number 2.
Number 2 is kefali.
What does that mean in English language?
How are you?
Okay, perfect. Number 3.
Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum is very easy. Give me another one, brother.
Number 3.